In episode 2, that would be last week, we talked about experience, process, and his story as far as the context for this journey. And Mark Atland and a couple of the other guys have asked that I share a bit more in depth of what the entrepreneurial journey is like. How do you feel about change? I don't mean that stuff. Not that little loose coins that you keep. I mean interruptions, changes. You know, like go to the grocery store, you put your debit card in to get the groceries out, and PayPal's lock you out. Like you're heading for the airport and there's traffic. Like you got everything all worked out. It's all going to be just right. And then weather changes, market changes, somebody changes their attitude. That's what we're going to talk about. Welcome to episode 3 of Worth Thinking About. This one's full of words. Words, all kinds of words. It's about change. It's about iterations. It's about coping and constant change. And, oh, here it comes. How about when the transmission in your vehicle blows out because of a factory defect and it's not covered? Some people just go into a depression. Some people just get really emotional. You can't do that with your clients, though. So, well, let's talk about it. It's definitely worth thinking about. I had a client decades ago when I had a construction company. Her name was Constance. She had about $250,000 of change orders. That means she changed her mind on her large remodel that we were doing for 16 months with a crew of about 20 guys to the tune of $250,000 in changes. Prior to that, I worked with a galloping gourmet. His name was Graham Kerr, famous celebrity chef. And Graham had written on a chalkboard during a staff meeting, "Thank God, constant change is here to stay." Those two things, constant change and constance change, have been with me for decades. You know, the point of a good story is a punchline. And Daniel, if you forget to tell the punchline, it's not a good story. So Graham went to the chalkboard and erased it. Well, he tried to erase it. For some reason, for about the next 2 years, as a ghost in the background, was this phrase of, "Thank God, constant change is here to stay." Would never go away. Like every meeting, he would be presenting, and right behind him, and we'd be making another iteration, another change, another walk around the paddock, as they say in Australia. So, iterations. It's a huge part of enduring as an entrepreneur. You have to be able to go around and around and around improving your product. I'm on version 8 of our software, and we're just now like, Yahoo, the market's there ready for us. It's called live copy and a syndicator. That's another story. So don't forget, constant change. That's what it's all about. As a contractor, an architect and a builder in the built environment, I had a punch list. I always had a list of to-dos, things that the guys needed to finish, things that we needed to be sure got all wrapped up. And I'm talking about, in this episode, what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. What are those day-to-day things that you have to encapsulate, embody, be part of? And one of those big things is developing a language. So Seth Godin, in his book Tribes, lays it out very well that leadership in a tribe is responsible for developing a language, and the tribe as a whole for developing the behavior and the communication around those words. Words matter. We have to be able to talk to each other, and that's what a tribe does. It has a common language. So some of the things that we have up here that we talked about, right? Scotomas, those blind spots. You don't see it, right? They can kill you. How about illusions? You're half wrong all the time. All the time you're half wrong. You don't see things the way they are. We see things the way we are. Okay, so some of these words that we need to pick up are, what are we as a group? Well, one of them is a minyan. A minyan is a dozen men in a Jewish culture that surround somebody, like the disciples and Jesus, or a group of peers that help you see the different facets of something. The number of iterations.
Daniel, you well know what iteration means. However, I believe you are wanting me to reiterate you. Okay then. Iteration is the repetition of a mathematical or computational procedure applied to the result of a previous application, typically as a means of obtaining successively closer approximations to the solution of a problem. Daniel, is this how you wanted me to iterate you? This was curious. Let's reiterate.
The number of iterations that you have to go through to figure out, when you've built something incredible that the market is ready for, that you can communicate clearly enough in simple terms. And on a sidebar, let me say this. There's called the Einstein test, and that is basically when you can say complex things in simple terms. And as you've heard me say before, as a watchmaker, it's difficult to tell people the time. When you know so much about what you've been doing and what you've developed, they ask, so what do you do? Here comes bloviation, right? One of the things I wrote up here that I just stuck with me very first time I heard it, Stephen Hawking. He says, what monstrosities would walk our streets should their faces be as unfinished as their minds? Right? An admonition to don't just lay around your whole life, from a guy trapped in a wheelchair. Use your mind. Think. Spend energy. Use it to figure out where you're going in history. Help other guys understand their experience, and make the process better for others and yourself. This has been my roughly done syllabus. It's, as I've said, it's been a punch list. It's been a reminder of where we're going, sort of descriptive ingredients for this series. Constant change. That's the process. Iterations. Lots of attempts at a summit. Acclimation, right? Building up strength, muscle memory, insights on things, books you read, videos you watch, lessons you learn, they all become compounding after a while. We need to have a language. It's really important. It's what Seth Godin talks about in his book Tribes, that we share a common understanding to some basic elements, and we can help each other avoid scotomas. If when we say, watch out, blind spot, scotoma. If we understand illusions, that is, things that we're certain we see them the way they are. We can't possibly, because we see things the way we are, based on our experiences, our wounds, our strengths that are our coping mechanisms from adapting and coping with the world, dealing with the world as it is. We develop weird belief systems, and together, as a group, as a minyan, a quorum, a mastermind, a nexus, as a tribe, lots of different ways to say the same thing. We can work this out together. We can learn together. It's the end of the windsurfing season. Wind has stopped blowing. It's the middle of October, and we're headed to Phoenix soon, as James would say on a channel that we watch. And when I mean soon, I have no idea. I have no idea. Angelina is launching Wellness by Choice, and we have to go at the right time in the market, right? The right time when things are completely ready, including the people are ready for embracing it. Let's talk about a chevron. Chevron of geese, they fly over this time of year. They rotate, but someone in the front has to kind of guide people. And they have eyes on each side of their head. They kind of look out one direction or the other. And as a wingman, and as a whole group of them, you hear them going over and they're going, left, 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 right, 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 right. They're honking. A honk, a hank, right? They're telling the guy in the front, left, right. That's what open source movement is about. When we write code, somebody goes, hey, that's good. Nah, that one's terrible. No good at all. Built into our platform is the ability to do that. An ability for us to give each other insights, to vote, to contribute, to ideate, to discuss topics, issues, challenges, processes, experiences. I want you to start grabbing onto some of these terms so that we can communicate clearly about tough challenges. For the first time in history, more people die today from eating too much than from eating too little. More people die from old age than from infectious diseases, and more people commit suicide than are killed by soldiers, terrorists, and criminals combined.
Up till now, increasing human power relied mainly upon upgrading our external tools. In the future, it may rely more on upgrading the human body and mind, or on merging directly with our tools. This is why it's so vital to think about humanity's new agenda. Precisely because we have some choice regarding the use of new technologies, we had better understand what is happening and make up our minds about it before it makes up our minds for us.
Like firefighters in a world without fire, so humankind in the 21st century needs to ask itself an unprecedented question. What are we going to do with ourselves in a healthy, prosperous, and harmonious world? What will demand attention and ingenuity? This question becomes doubly urgent given the immense new powers that biotechnical and information technology are providing us with. What are we going to do with all that power? We've entered an era of rapidly accelerating change. If we're not aware, self-aware, and seeing what's going on around us, how quickly things are progressing, and no one on the planet is, no single person understands everything that's going on around us in the world today, and not even any one group has a good grasp on where technology and all these fabulous things are taking us. But if we're not aware of that, we won't respond in time. And if we don't respond, then a system is going to act on our behalf. Now that's an interesting point of view. I hadn't thought about that one. What are you going to do about the opportunities that you have? I mean, we can entertain ourselves to death and just to no end, but imagine being able to address a coming plague before it gets here, to be able to divert some of the disaster and have your life contribute to something of significant meaning for humankind. I think this dataism is a substantial issue for us to take a hard look at and to start doing some things that we can about the information bias that's plaguing us and certainly dividing us as a country, most likely globally going to bring us into conflict. Well, I'm not sure about you, but all that thinking makes my head sore, and I'd rather not do this one on my own, so why don't you come join that conversation at 360min.net. If you want to just stick your toes in the water, then go ahead and subscribe here on YouTube. And if you want to join in the book or come have a meetup with us, I'll be in Phoenix in a couple of weeks, I think. Well, anyway, connect on LinkedIn. I'll let you know more. See you next week.